So good afternoon. Welcome to Literature 2 class. My name is Olusola OO. In our permitted class, we discussed the historical etymology of the concept of prose fiction. And we also defined the concept of prose. And then we also examined types of prose. Then we also further to discuss the classification of prose fiction, and then we also discuss features or properties of prose fiction. So we discussed this in our permitted class. Then this afternoon, my assignment is very simple. We'll be talking about the historical origin of prose fiction. And when we talk about historical origin, we simply means the historical antecedents that surround the existence of prose fiction as an artistic work of art, or the fact that surround the coming or advent of prose fiction into the literary world. And then also we'll be looking at the etymology of how prose fiction became an academic field or an aspect or genres of literature. I've mentioned in our permitted class that the idea of literature cannot be claimed all alone by drama or poetry. The three principal genres of literature will have to come together, and that is what we refer to as drama, poetry, and prose. By historical evolution, drama and poetry are older, far older than prose or prose fiction. This means that prose is of a later history. Prose is of a later history. This simply means that prose fiction came into academia in the 16th century officially, but the evidence that points to the existence of prose fiction before the 16th century AD, as we mentioned and discussed in literature 1 and 3, that drama and poetry came into discourse before the birth of Jesus Christ and Muhammad. That was the BC era. But prose fiction came into academic discourse during the AD, that's after death. So that's why we say that prose fiction is of a later history. But with this facts, there are certain historical antecedents that point to the existence of prose fiction. But this historical antecedent is very meager, and it is not obliquous to scholars at that time until 16th century BC, AD, until 15th, 16th century AD, that scholar now became aware that there is an aspect of literature that is called prose fiction. And that's why when we look at the etymology of the word prose, the word prose metamorphosed from a Latin word, not Greek word. The word drama metamorphosed from a Greek word. The word poetry metamorphosed from a Greek word. But the word prose and fiction metamorphosed from a Latin word. We discussed that in our permitted class, which means straightforward, prosa, which means straightforward. So the idea of prose fiction was officially launched by the Germanic scholars of the 16th century. And that's why by introduction, say prose fiction is said to have evolved varieties of writings known as belly writers in French language. And that's why my interest this afternoon is that at the end of this class, you should be able to explain the origin of prose fiction, then make reference to historical antecedents that point to the origin of prose fiction. So, by etymology, there are certain evidence that point that prose fiction came around 800 BC, and that means that it was even before the existence of drama and poetry, because in the BC calendar we count down, we don't count up. So during the Mediterranean period, that was the period before Socrates, the period before Plato, the period before Aristotle, the period before Taste of Miletus, and so on and so forth. So this Mediterranean period points that there is a foundation of prose fiction, and that is what they called epic, and that various work written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin at that time, prose fiction. But what happened to prose fiction during this era is that it was not pronounced. It was informal at that time. So writers or novelists or writers that dedicate their prowess, literature prowess, into prose fiction did this within the informal concept. So it was not announced. It's just like what Egypt experienced about education. That today we point to Greek city-states, that the history of education is traceable to Greek city-states. And of course, education metamorphosed from Egypt in Africa. So education actually started from Africa. But what happened to Egyptian is that at that time, they covered the content of learning in their city-states, while Greek opened it up. And with the help of the Roman Empire, people became aware of what was going on in Greek state at that time, in Athens, in Spartan, in Corinth, in Argo, and so on and so forth. So that was what prose fiction experienced. And that's why we claim that drama and poetry came before prose fiction. And drama and poetry was accepted into academic discourse before prose fiction. And then some of the antecedents that prove the existence of prose fiction to the period of the BC is what we call the epic. You see, epic happened to be a long narrative poem. You see now. So what happened is that the earliest work of prose fiction that came to being take the form of poem or poetic form. And that's how we can point to the epic of Gilgamesh. That was 1300 to 1000 BC. Imagine that. That predates the era of drama and poetry. Then the same thing applicable to the epic to the epic to the epic of Enkidu at that time also, which tells us about the historical legend of a powerful king whose subjects failed to give their consent to. So, by historical origin, it means that there are evidence that points to the existence of prose even before the arrival of drama and poetry into the Greek society. The second historical antecedent that time did not permit to make reference to is the Bible. The Bible is a typical literature work or artistic work of art. And that is why we have section of the Bible that talk about poem. We have section of the Bible that talks about history. We have section of the Bible that talk about prose. So the prose section of the Bible is as old as man himself. So it means that prose is as old as the human society. As old as the human society. So, but academically, prose came into study in the 16th century. That is about 500 years ago. So because of time, we're going to stop here. I don't know. Do we have any question? Take time and read the notes intensively. So I have this assignment for us. List and discuss the 4 reasons why the Canterbury Tales is regarded as the forerunner of modern prose fiction. Do a research work on Canterbury Tales. It's also one of the evidence that prove the existence of prose. One of the earliest work of prose fiction, and so on and so forth. Do a research work on it and submit tomorrow. So that's why I said to be submitted tomorrow by 12 p.m. using the WhatsApp page. Thank you and God bless you. So if you are watching this lecture via our YouTube channel, I want to encourage you to continue to subscribe and they also encourage others.